is just kind of remember your why. And a lot of people have a why. You know, sometimes my why to be in the best version of myself are my kids. Like when they look at me, like I don't want him to be like, I want to be a role model. I want to be an example of how someone should handle themselves. And I'm like, man, they shouldn't see me, you know, the way I am. You know, they should see me, you know, up and going, getting ready. Even in the whole midst of this pandemic, they should see a positive go get. Even though sometimes you don't feel like it, you can always, you know, go back onto your why, go back to your routine, just make small little steps forward. And then the second thing, to be honest, and people don't think about it enough, is just legacy. Like legacy. Like it's probably too deep, probably too deep for most people. But like when I get in these funks, work wise, or training wise, or you know, with my food, I kind of just go down deep down into my why. And my why was like just legacy. Like, what am I leaving behind? How will people see me? What am I going to see of myself when I look back? My 20s, my 30s now. Am I like, what am I going to see? Am I happy with that? Am I happy with, if I looked back at this particular time during the pandemic, was I happy with the person I saw? And those questions to me motivate me personally. And it doesn't for everybody. Everybody needs to find their tool. But for me, it was just like legacy. It's like when I look back at myself, am I going to be content with what I saw, with how I acted, the action steps I took? Could I have done more? And those little things, those just little questions that I believe I can play with, just started to pull me in the right direction with my food, right direction with my training, right direction with my lifestyle habits, which ultimately serve me best. And I mean, like, I'm a very sort of everyday training kind of guy anyway. I train every day. And I know that sounds excessive, but to me, for example, a long hour and a half hike might be training, or yeah, for the most part, whatever. Yeah.
For the average guy listening, they might think training every day means doing weights every day, but that's not necessarily.
Yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't. I mean, as long as you're active every day and it's a little bit more than your baseline, that's the way I see it. You know, my baseline is to not go hike, but if I go out and just take an extra one walk, to me, that's a bit of activity for the day. Yeah. Obviously, I do a little bit more. Sometimes I push myself too hard, but like, we all want our challenges. But my point is it comes back to a lot of things. I know we've spoken about a lot of things, but I think now 2021 is here. And I know we spoke about the other day about like how lockdown went last year. And to be fair, lockdown went really well last year. But because I feel like given a pandemic, we had a lot of things going for us. And then, you know, eventually some of the stuff that wasn't going for us collectively probably started to creep up on us. And now, you know, we're probably looking at 2021, and everybody probably just needs to ask themselves a little bit more of a question regarding legacy. Who would they see themselves? Like, how would they have approached 2021? What do they want to be? And I think people can find purpose in that, if I'm honest with you, because I found a lot of time with my clients, some of my clients recently, it's just that lack of like direction, motivation, purpose, and all encompassing. I feel like getting back to those real questions, and you don't have to answer them, but play with them. Like, life is about being playful. I feel like definitely helps, especially when it comes to like goals for 2021.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's a really good point. Super good point. Because I really feel that's very, very pertinent to this time right now. Especially what you were saying about awareness. Because I think some of our motivation to train might have been unconscious. Like, let's face facts. A lot of us train because we want to feel comfortable in our bodies, right? We have this experience, and no matter what, you don't have a choice. Every experience you have as a human being is in your body, right? So that's how it is. So you want to be comfortable in this place because it's your only home. That being said, I feel a lot of our motivation to train, a lot of our desire to train, human beings are communal animals. Human beings, we care about our position within the community, and we had a lot more human interaction in the old days, at the start of 2020 and before. We would go out and interact with people that go to pubs or go to nightclubs, or just be seen in public a lot more. So in a sense, we had a lot more everyday motivation to look good, in a sense. Do you know what I mean? Because a lot of people that have aesthetic goals, they've got to look good for their party, or they've got to look good because they've got this coming up, or whatever. They compare themselves to their peer group at work. And here's the point. a lot of those may have been unconscious motivations, right? You want to look good because you don't have to answer to why. It's just something that's important. Whereas let's face facts. Now, I mean, this space I'm in right now is where I spend most of my time probably, and I imagine you spend most of your time at your house. The person-to-person interaction's gone way down. So now we really have to look within and say, why is training important to me? And on that why thing as well, I think it's super important to ask that question constantly. The practice of training, asking why you're training is as important as the practice itself, I would say. Why? Because we're in a changing world. So, for example, some people might have, in 2020, probably a lot of people had motivation to train because they know lockdown's going to end soon. Whereas now we've been in lockdown for so long, or lockdowns and lockdowns and lockdowns, that it feels to me exactly like we were saying with regards to legacy, although I wouldn't use that word myself, but maybe now I will. Thanks for the teaching, bro. We have to ask deeper, like, we have to really look inside and say, why is training important to us? And what does it mean to us? And from a masculine perspective as well, who does this shape who I am as a man? You know?
No, I completely agree. I mean, you're right. Like, there isn't an external factor to kind of factor in. Like, we do now have to do all this stuff that's a benefit to us
Yeah.
for real sort of like intricate reasons, not just because of the external surroundings. And that's coming from a like, I'm an introvert at heart, to be honest, right? And in even these last few lockdowns, I was fine. I was like, hold on, actually, now it's kind of bothering me now.
Yeah.
And that's like a pure introvert, right? Like somebody who doesn't necessarily need a lot of external stimulus. So I can only imagine what some people might feel. And I mean, this is the part where you can get philosophical, spiritual, religious, however you want to kind of dress it up. But most important thing is just to be asking these questions, because if there's not going to be any progression, you're just regressing. If there's not going to be any sort of, because right now, regardless of the situation everybody is in, regardless of if it's positive or negative, we are where we are, and we can only make the best of it. So I feel like the way to make the best of it is to ask more questions of ourselves. Seek more answers, be more playful in those questions, because there's going to be a sense of freedom in that, rather than get too bogged down in, the worst thing I think right now we could be doing is like watching like news every day, sensationalizing the negative aspects of the current situation that we're in. Now, I'm not saying we need to neglect them, but I'm saying for people's like mental, physical well-being, for them to look at themselves 5 years from now, maybe the actions they take in 2021 leads to greatness in like 5 years time. Maybe it leads to deeper, meaningful questions you could have answered right now because you had the time and the space to answer them. And even if you don't, and maybe life feels like really crap and some crappy things have really happened to you, some introspection whilst we're in this moment,
Yeah,
it could be a powerful thing. The question is that, well, it's not really the question, but it's just the what if. It's like, be playful in the what if.
yeah.
We're in very uncertain times, right? And that could be for your personal health. It could be for your career. It could be for any number of things. Now, with that uncertainty, the certainty you can find in that is that the answers you're going to ask yourself within. And you can almost have some fun with that by being playful with those questions and looking more within, rather than worrying about what's uncertain externally. And I feel like that's a very easy way. It's not an easy way, but it's one simple way. Simple and easy always gets coupled, to kind of progress in 2021 without progressing, if that makes sense. Even if other areas are regressing, you could. It's just, for me. That's just one of my. And I mean, we're probably like spitballing here, but it's just for me. That's one sort of thought process I had coming into 2021, having a really crappy start.
Yeah.
That's where my kind of thought process is with that.
Do you know when you said, by the way, I just want to, said on, when you said about the crappy start, like it was just before 2021. Yeah, I went through like a bit of a depression, and the short nights and questioning why I was doing what I was doing in every way, relationship, training, all areas of life. And I think eventually I come to the realization that actually this 2021 period, or this period of time, is a massive blessing, because previously we would have had external factors that may have fueled our motivation, like we were saying before. However, they would have been largely unconscious. Whereas now we have to choose them. Like you say, we have to choose why we're motivated. So we have to raise our awareness. But ultimately, I'd say, and I'm going philosophical here, but I would say the biggest blessing of this period of time, especially for someone like me, that I don't know. I mean, I've always struggled to answer whether I'm an introvert or an extrovert. I think weirdly working in fitness makes you a bit of an introvert.
Yeah, I guess yeah, balance. You're somewhere on the spectrum between the two.
Ambiverted, yeah, ambiverted. But what has been a massive blessing for me personally is having to go into that bit of silence every now and then, actually face myself. Because I live in the middle of London, there would always be noise before that I could distract myself with. But actually having to go into the silence. And what I realized, having meditated for a year, or 2 years, sorry, and done all that kind of thinking I was deep, is actually going into the silence is actually meeting your life head on. And it's not having distractions, and it's just meeting life as it really is. And it comes back to that, like, the only time you can't be present with distractions, and we all know happiness is experienced while you're present. So it feels like we've all had to face some things that are pretty tough, but for many of us, maybe the hardest thing is truly learning to be by ourselves. But within that, I just share a little spiritual thing with you, is a lot of the people, like the spiritual practitioners, say it's when you truly go into the silence or the abyss or the void, where you truly face yourself. That's where you can call it what you want, but that's where God comes to meet you on the other side. So, anyway, okay, all right, man. Dude, we've been spitting for. We got into it, man.
Yeah, I know. I thought I was gonna have nothing to say.
It was juicy because we started getting into it, like jibber jabbing, like in a really fun way. Like, for me, I enjoyed that conversation. We started off technical, and then we got into the emotional, philosophical reality of every day. I thought, yeah, man, that was good. I enjoyed that.
Luckily, nobody cried.
Yeah, well, I was close a couple of times, but due to my stoicism, I can hold it together.
Exactly.
So, dude, tell us how people can find you.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can find me kind of on socials at Functional RX, and on Instagram at functional.rx. Yeah, all things FRX basically. You can hit me up there, and yeah, that's where I'm at.
Cool. And my understanding is that you work with clients like online, like presumably you do a bit of Zoom coaching, and then you do another style of coaching, which is like check-in type coaching. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we just have two. We have two models. We have remote one-to-one coaching, which is all done via the app. And then we have a hybrid method, which is a combination of seeing the coach in person, whether it's virtually or in person in club, and the remainder of the coaching being done via the app online.
Cool. Okay, cool, man. So Functional RX, fantastic. And I'll just ask you one more fun question for a laugh. There you go. So, if you could give one final tip to the audience today, just a quick tip or a word of wisdom, what would it be?
Oh man, when people ask this, I'm like, wow, there is zero I could probably tell people that they would give a shit about. No,
Yeah.
Self-awareness is king. Self-awareness is king. If we can all just have a little more self-awareness, the actions we take, the choices we make might just be a little bit better.
Okay, self-awareness. Know thyself. But to turn it from esoteric to practical, life itself can be a practice.
Absolutely.
Brush your teeth with awareness.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
Right, man. Cool. So we're going to say goodbye. So thank you very much, Ozzie.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
We'll catch you a later episode, I'm sure.
Part 2.